Welcome back to my channel. Today we're making an easy, hearty, quick beef stew, and I did some Brussels under the broiler to go with it. Just trying to keep the low carb, going. So I started with some beef stew that I purchased already cut, and I rinsed them off and I seasoned them right in my strainer. So as you can see, I used some salt. That is some Jamaican style curry. That is some complete seasoning, of course, and I used about a tablespoon of the complete seasoning because actually this is a lot of beef in here. It's about 2.5 pounds. I then used some onion powder and garlic powder. I used about a tablespoon of both of those, about a half a teaspoon of celery seed, and I started my Dutch pot with a little bit of bacon grease and a little bit of olive oil, and that's what I use to saute my beef down with. And you just want to, once I stirred it up, my initial point of stirring was to get the seasonings all coated all over the meat, and then as you can see, I'll just kind of put it all in a single layer so that they can start getting browned before I actually stir it again. And that's when I went back and stirred in the pot. So here I'm just browning the meat. The goal is not to cook the meat through. It's just to get it brown on each side. I used about 3 whole cloves of garlic that I chopped up while the meat was cooking. As you can see, I didn't put any vegetables, just season and the meat. At that point, once the meat gets to the brownness all over, I take my strainer and I scoop that meat out of the leftover fat that's in the pan. Now here you could do it 2 ways. I've done it both ways. Some people use flour to kind of make a roux with that fat that's in the pan and seasonings, but I don't use any flour because it's not necessary if you let the meat cook long enough and get tender and you get that thick, luscious stew that you want. So as you can see here, I add my vegetables to this. Here I have some onions, some mushrooms, and carrots. That's what I had on hand. You can add whatever you like. You can add bell peppers. You can add celery. You can add, it's just so many veggies you can put down over in this, and it will work just fine. So what I did, I put my onions in first with the fat that was left in the pan, that olive oil and that bacon grease, and I added my garlic. That's the 3 cloves of garlic that I had, and I saute that down just a little bit, maybe about 30 seconds to a minute or so, and then I'll add my carrots next because carrots take a little bit longer to cook. So I go ahead and add that to my base. And I'm stirring around, and if you notice, it kind of looks like a roux almost, but it's not quite because I'm not using any flour. Okay, so there I add my carrots, and then one of the secrets is some beef bouillon. You can use the Nor bouillon. You can use the cubes that I have right here. Whatever you got, that beef flavor is what's going to punch it up a notch. So you just add those beef cubes in here. And I start off, as you can see, with about 4 of them. And I ended up adding 1 more at a later time. So I used 5 cubes for this entire pot. So from there, you're just cooking it down. I added about 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, maybe a tablespoon. Yeah, that was about a tablespoon and a splash more. I just put it in there to taste. And then that's when I add my water. I use 2 cups of water. That's all you need because once you put the lid down on there, it's going to make a little bit more liquid, but you got to let it keep cooking so that it can stew down. Then from there, I added my mushrooms. I didn't have a whole lot. I would have added way more mushrooms, but that's all I had in the fridge, so they got thrown in there. Okay, and I tasted it just to make sure that my seasoning and my flavor profile was where I wanted it to be. You check to see if you needed any more salt or anything, and I didn't really need anything, so I added my cubed stew meat over back into that broth. And the last thing I put in is I grow banana peppers. So I just had these 2 banana peppers that I had picked from my garden. I added those to the last part of the stew. And once I stirred the banana peppers in, and because they're not pickled, they just, taste like bell peppers actually. So here are my Brussels in the cast iron that I put under the broiler, and this is the finished result. When I tell you the meat was so tender, it just melt in your mouth. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you enjoyed this dish, and I'll keep them coming.